but it seems like there's always an issue. So guys, I'm so grateful that you're still here. Sorry for that little hiccup. I might just clip that little section for you watching the replay. So today we're talking about inflammation and a ketogenic diet. I get a lot of questions from people like yourself that are keto curious. They want to know if the keto diet will work for them, if they have allergies, if they have Hashimoto's, if they have lupus, if they have scleroderma, if they have, even type 2 diabetes or type 1 diabetes. Will this work for you? Or what are the benefits, better yet, what are the benefits of becoming more fat adapted? And that's what we're talking about today. I want to share with you a little insight that a lot of people, tend to not know about because new research, it's actually a complex word called Immunometabolism. And this was coined by Harvard researchers back in the 1992, I believe it was the first time that immunometabolism was talked about in the research. And I think it's really, really important for you to understand this concept because whether you have blood sugar dysregulation or you want to lose weight, or if you're on the other side of the spectrum and you're interested in improving your health and decreasing the inflammatory response and also decreasing your sensitivity to foods, to allergens, to mold, to now that it's springtime, at least here in North America, to allergens in the environment, pollen and trees and so forth, you can benefit by becoming more fat adapted. So let me just put it to you like this. An inflamed immune system is a glucose-thriving, insulin-resistant physiologic state, okay? So if we think about immunoglobulins that are upregulated when we're sensitive to foods, if we think about cytokines, if we think about leukotrienes and prostaglandins and cyclooxygenases, these are all pro-inflammatory signaling pathways and mediators. They are made by fermenting sugar through the same kind of, when we talk about like fat adapted versus burning sugar, kind of the bad anaerobic pathway. I mean, it's good if you're sprinting, that short duration, high intensity explosive exercise, you ferment sugar without the use of oxygen. But if you're inflamed, that's how your immune system is financing the production of making all these pro-inflammatory signaling pathways. So by becoming more fat adapted, not only do you make your mitochondria within your muscle tissue, within your brain and astrocytes and microglia and all the cells that thrive on ketones and fat, not only do you make them more fat adapted, but when you become more fat adapted, guess what? Your immune system becomes more fat adapted too. Doesn't it make sense? I mean, when we think about it, everything is connected in the body, from our brain to the muscles to the liver to the pancreas. Everything is cross-talking. We've heard recently about the gut-brain axis, right? And we thought that was a novel concept. But we now know, through the microglial system that there's an immune system within the brain. There's immune system within the muscle tissue cross-talk. Everything's connected. This is a core tenet of functional medicine. So when you become more fat adapted, your immune system also becomes more fat adapted. And here's what's very interesting about that. A fat adapted immune system is less reactive. That's the take-home message number one. A fat adapted body, a fat adapted immune system is more tolerant to environmental triggers. It's more tolerant to gluten. It's more tolerant to pollen in the trees. It's more tolerant to mold. It's more tolerant to your own physiology so that your body does not create autoreactive antibodies against your thyroid, against your joint tissues, against your central nervous system in the case of multiple sclerosis. So hit that like button if you think being fat adapted is a positive thing. And I will tell you, a characteristic associated with pathological aging, what we call inflammaging, this process that we become more inflamed as we age, is characterized by an intolerant immune system. Meaning that immune system is no longer, it's responding, it's overreactive to everything. And the analogy that I create is a busy parent. If you think about it, for those of us that have children, we come home after a long, busy day, and sometimes your kid does one little thing wrong, slams the door, walks inside with muddy shoes, whatever. And because you've had so much stress built up throughout the day, you react in a way that you probably wouldn't normally react to if that were to happen, say, earlier in the day. You become intolerant. Well, your immune system can do the same thing. And so it's important to understand that the metabolic state and the metabolic health of your immune system governs its response, okay? So I know this is like a big picture, but let's just zoom into the take-home. The take-home message is this. If you or someone you know is curious about going on a ketogenic diet because they're on an autoimmune paleo type diet, they're on the low FODMAP diet, they have Hashimoto's or lupus or MS or SLE or whatever disorder, just understand that as they become more fat adapted, they're also simultaneously going to become less inflamed. Why is that? Here's the key point here. Because there's a type of T regulatory cell within your body called the T regulatory cell. It's a type of T lymphocyte. There's all these different types of T lymphocytes, and the T regulatory cells are almost like policemen. They go in and break up fights and aberrant and moderate aberrant inflammatory processes within the body, and they soothe out ongoing inflammation and they resolve inflammation, which is key. You see, it's not that the short inflammatory insult is going to kill you. It's the long-term, smoldering, ongoing inflammation that's going to cause decreased productivity in the workplace, decreased mental clarity, mental fog. It's going to cause insulin resistance, and it's going to cause things like cancer, autoimmunity, and much more. Okay? So that's important. To slow down that smoldering inflammation that's going to shorten your life and make your life less enjoyable while you're on planet Earth, that's going to be that chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is resolved through T regulatory cells. T regulatory cells love to burn fat for fuel. And so again, the take-home message, when you become more fat adapted, you become less inflamed. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the NLRP3 inflammasome in just a minute, but I'm going to address the metabolic side, metabolic disorders, and how metabolic disorders can also benefit from becoming more fat adapted, independent of their insulin sensitization improvement. So let me just pause, hold that thought, that's where we're going. I'm going to check in with you because this is live and sometimes the audio gets screwed up, as you know. Alright, so someone says your hair is long enough to cut off that tired perm. Alright, cool. What do one sprouted almond say to the other? Hey bud. That's pretty funny. Alright, Matthew, cool question. Is that why you've been grouchy lately? Have I been grouchy? No. I mean, so that video that I made on the carnivorous diet, look, all these people are promoting consumption of crappy meat. I just had to say something about it. I'm not anti-meat necessarily, but I see all these people going to the store and buying junk meat, and I just wanted to say something about it. That was the take-home message of that video. I have videos coming very shortly with hunters, people that hunt and gather their own food, and we talk about the carnivorous diet. I think it has its roles and its place, but is that the only thing that, should you just eat meat for the rest of your life? Maybe, if that cures your depression, but I think diversity is a good thing. So I haven't been, I haven't been grouchy lately. Web Medic says, keto helps me keep my ulcers under control and my allergies are not as bad. Awesome, so that's exactly what we're talking about here. We're talking about becoming more tolerant to our environment, so that's a great point of that. Let's see here. Is the sound better? I know the sound kind of sucks, to be totally honest. I love this microphone that you can see here, but it's giving me grief, as always happens when we do these live streams, and it's still giving me grief right now. So I'm going to move it up here. All right, guys. So let's go back to type 2 diabetes. Since it seems like you guys don't have any major questions here, I'm moving this microphone out of the way because it was in the way. We're going back to type 2 diabetes. Okay. Maria says, struggling with several autoimmune disorders, avoided leptin for years now. Starting keto 6 months ago, still struggling. Audio is great. It's better. Okay, cool, guys. All right. Got to watch replay. Love low carb, high fat, use exogenous ketones, 60-hour water fast, and keto reboot. Okay, audio's good now. All right, cool, guys. Okay, so here's the thing that I really want to address to a lot of you. Because I think it's really, really important. So if you are inflamed, if you have allergies, if you have food sensitivities, if you were not breastfed as a child, if you know that you were delivered birth via cesarean section, if you know that you've had a lot of antibiotics in your life, so your microbiome might be off, and therefore your immune system might be off a little bit as well. What this may mean is that it could be harder for you to burn fat as fuel. Okay, just keep that in mind. I'm writing up this for our Spring into Keto course, and I've come across a lot of research lately about the intersection between inflammation and ketone body utilization as fuel. I think this is really, really fascinating because, like, My wife and me and some of the clients that we work with, we're relatively lean people, and our ketones never really get that high in the serum unless we fast for like 3 or 4 days, which we don't do, totally honestly, very often. But I know some people who are relatively overweight and their ketone bodies just jack right up into the 3s and 4 millimolar, and yet they're still not losing the weight. And I was kind of wondering, like, why would that be? What is going on here? Well, it turns out that inflammatory processes slow down keto lysis. Keto lysis means snipping up the ketone body, making beta-hydroxybutyrate into 2 molecules of acetyl-CoA so that it can be utilized inside the mitochondria to make cellular energy. So that's the purpose of ketones, right? When there's an excess of fat being utilized, ketones are almost like backup fat that's transferable into the brain, okay? That's how you can kind of think about that. Now, so a lot of people will say, well, gosh, my ketones are high, but I'm not, losing the fat. What could that be? And if there's underlying inflammation that's being unresolved, this could be food sensitivities. This could be undiagnosed sleep apnea. And that's why I love the Somnifix product. I'll put a link below this, guys. It's a mouth tape that's hypoallergenic, that's been studied at Harvard, that is absolutely wonderful for helping you to get a good night's sleep, but can also help you become a better fat burner, which I will address very, very soon. So, there's a lot of factors that can prevent keto lysis, okay? So when we talk about ketosis, when you go to seminars, there's a lot of focus on synthesizing and making ketones, right? You need low insulin, you need low glucose, you need high glucagon, right? These are all, that's kind of the recipe, if you will, to synthesize ketones within your liver. But we don't really sometimes talk, at least maybe I haven't heard it as much talked about, we don't talk about keto lysis. So we have the synthesis and the production of ketones on one side, which is all great. And when you measure your blood levels, you should see a rise in ketones if you exercise, if you fast, or if you eat a low-carb, high-fat diet. But there's another side of the equation, of course, and that is keto lysis. That is the ability to take beta-hydroxybutyrate or acetoacetate out of the blood, okay, whether it's in your brain or in your body or in your muscles, to snip that up, because really, at the end of the day, we're talking about acetyl-CoA molecules. Ketones are just like basically, essentially, I'm being very non-specific, very brief here. Beta-hydroxybutyrate is essentially 2 molecules of acetyl-CoA. And acetyl-CoA goes into your mitochondria to, guess what? To make cellular energy, right? So you need keto lysis to occur as well as the synthesis of ketones to occur at the same time. Now, here's the thing about keto lysis. Keto lysis is the ability for your cells to take ketones out of your blood and to use them to make cellular energy, which is the goal and, if I'm not mistaken, the definition of being fat adapted, okay? If you're inflamed, keto lysis doesn't occur as well. That means even though you're making ketones, you may not be utilizing them as well. And so this is something that we're going to address in our Spring into Keto Masterclass. I got a link here below, guys. I think this is a breakthrough. I think this is really important. And like I said, because some people, their ketone levels rise, but the weight doesn't drop in a commensurate manner, okay? So what gives? What is it? Are they not fat adapted? Are they fat adapted? Or are they inflamed such that the body is not snipping up, it's not ketolyzing the ketones? So there's some research on this. If you want to dive into it, you can type in capital SCOT and keto lysis in PubMed or in Google Scholar, and the articles will pull up. SCOT is a key enzyme. It's succinyl-CoA transferase, something like that, or thiolase, I believe. It's involved in the snippage and utilization of ketones, okay? So, very interesting stuff. I mean, I think this is super fascinating, because I get a lot of text messages and, Instagram messages and on this YouTube in the comment section, people saying, hey, I've been keto for X amount of months, my ketone levels are X, Y, and Z, but I kind of stopped losing the weight, or the weight loss has, I was losing weight and then it kind of plateaued. And so what we want to address is, where is the inflammation coming from? And some of this can be gut-derived endotoxin. Some of this, as I mentioned, can be undiagnosed sleep apnea. Some of this can be just an exercise deficiency, particularly in the leg muscle tissue, which we're going to talk about a lot in the Spring to Keto Masterclass. So keep that in mind, friends. I'm going to be doing more free videos on this, but in the Spring into Keto Masterclass, what we're going to do is talk a lot about the science so that you can really understand all the factors that are involved in the synthesis and production of ketones and likewise all the factors that are involved in the ketone body utilization. I think this is equally important. We can't talk about production of ketones without also talking about utilization. And so it's just a side note, and this is just me personally, I never really get too excited about having high levels of serum ketones. You know, it's like I don't get excited about having high levels of blood glucose. I don't think we should have an energy surplus in our system. That shows that there's metabolic inflexibility going on. So that's just my side note, you know, because I do see on Instagram people are braggadocious about their high levels of ketones. And to me, that means that they don't understand that there needs to be a balance between production and breakdown and utilization. And if your ketones are very high, you know, what's going on at the cellular level? Why is your body not absorbing those and using those as energy? So there's something to keep in mind. Now, let's talk about inflammation in the context of type 2 diabetes and obesity. This is a huge, huge point that I want to address with you that I think is so profound, because I just got a call from a great gentleman by the name of Martin today, and he said, you know, hey Mike, thanks for the channel, thanks for the information. You know, I have type 2 diabetes, I'm getting, you know, some complications associated with that, and what else can I do? He's taking some supplements and things like that, and I wanted to stress to him that another aspect that he should consider when it comes to type 2 diabetes is modulating his body's inflammatory response. Of course, keto will help to do that, but there's other herbs and botanicals from vegetables and, you know, phytonutrients and flavonoids and herbs and spices that can also help there. So hold that thought. We're talking about type 2 diabetes and inflammation. I want to see what questions you have, and then we'll dive into it. Yeah, Rana says, D-ribose for mitochondrial health. Is there any food sources? So Rana, sorry. I'm not a huge fan of D-ribose for this reason. D-ribose rapidly glycosylates, it's called ribosylation. So anytime that any sugar attaches on to something else, we call it, in the context of glucose, we call it glycosylation. In the context of fructose, we call it fructosylation. And ribose, D-ribose, ribosylates very rapidly. And so this creates what's known as an advanced glycation end product, also in age. It's kind of the funny pathway, right? So you have D-ribose, you have proteins, ribose latches onto it, we have ribosylation, that creates an advanced glycation end product, and then there's this receptor called the RAGE receptor, the receptor for advanced glycation end products. You latches on here, and then we get a lot of downstream inflammation. So look, if you're really an endurance athlete, you do MMA, you know, jiu-jitsu, you're at the gym a lot, okay, fine, you can take a little bit of ribose, but if you're not very active and not hammering it at the gym, I would not suggest taking D-ribose, because it can, you know, it ribosylates. It can create and react with, guess what, other proteins in your body. So I'm not a huge fan of it. If I was an endurance athlete and training my butt off, you know, for a major event, then maybe I would consider it. But wonderful question. Thanks for asking that. Kevin says, nah, I don't need to test before and after during. I bodybuild and go heavy, lift once per week, just get close to my 1 rep max, but I feel intense need for pizza for the carbs. Kevin, I totally resonate with that. You know, look, and we talk about this in our courses a lot. I think if you're lifting weights and you don't have that much body fat to lose, or even if you do have a lot of body fat to lose, carb cycling can be very helpful for you. So I do recommend this. I think this is helpful. Again, the caveat is you have to be physically active. You know, if you're not physically active, then only carb cycle maybe every 2 to 3 weeks. But that's what I would suggest. Now, the thing about this, and we talk about this in the course a lot, friends, is the second meal effect. Meaning, your body likes to adapt, right? When you take a cold shower, your heart rate variability improves, right? Your parasympathetic tone improves. You become more resilient. If you eat a lot of fat, bile is released, and your body is thinking to, your body adapts, right? So it's going to prepare to process more fat, okay, for that next meal. Now, if that next meal is very high in carbs, you can have an abnormal post-meal processing of the carbs. Likewise, if you have a lot of carbs and then you have a high-fat meal, your body gets a little bit confused. This is known as the second meal effect. It's been talked about a lot in the metabolic research, and I think it's a big deal. And so that's what, one thing that I recommend to you is try to be a little bit consistent with your macros to an extent. And when you carb cycle, you can do a little bit of a fast, make sure you're carb depleted before you kind of do a refeed and things like that, because your body's going to be used to, breaking down protein, breaking down fat if you're low carb keto. And you can have an aberrant blood sugar and blood insulin response after that. So just keep that in mind. The second meal effect is real. We talk about it a lot in the masterclass. But Kevin, I'm with you. I noticed, I've been hardcore keto starting May of 2015. The very first time I was introduced to this was in 2002, but I use this off and on, off and on. When I say off and on, very low carb, very high fat, high protein to lose body fat, for spring break and really more aesthetic type purposes. And I found, that through doing this, you become much more carb sensitive. But if I deplete my carbs for too long, just me personally, I lose a lot of strength and muscle size. And not that I'm a bodybuilder or a fitness model, or I don't get paid to have a physique look a certain way, but it's just more of a mental thing. So I found, for me personally, I like to carb cycle at least 1 to 2 days a week after a day where I involve legs or deadlift, because I feel that moving, anytime you squat or lunge or do, some sort of glute activation, posterior chain type work, you're activating a lot of muscles, and I want to make sure that I replenish those with glycogen from carbohydrate sources. And I'm talking about seasonally available tubers and roots. I don't go out and have pizza or anything like that. I mean, I love pizza. Believe me, I freaking love pizza. I haven't had it in years, and I just, it's kind of one of those things, I love to drink alcohol too. I love beer, but I don't have it, because once you get in the habit of, having, just one little pizza, then that leads to 2 pizzas, or one beer leads to 3 or 4, and I just want to have, more consistency in my life and make sure that I just, stick with the plan of eating real clean food, eating whole foods. That's just my approach. Awesome, guys, that you guys are all jumping in on this chat. This is so cool. So Dax says, I've been keto adapted for 2 years, but still have sugar cravings after meals. Any tips to curb these cravings? Chromium picolinate doesn't seem to work. So chromium's not going to affect blood sugar cravings. Chromium just might, increase sensitivity of the insulin receptor at the GLUT4 type level. A much better product for that is actually myo-inositol. So this is actually one thing, I had it here. I didn't know if I was going to talk about. This is a product that we've created, so a supplement line that I've created. It's called Myo Science. And as you can tell, the prefix myo is all about muscle science. So muscle science, myo-inositol. So this is a formula that has GABA, magnesium, taurine, and myo-inositol. This can do 2 different things for you, friend. It can improve your body's ability. So some of those, kind of cravings that we have, those impulsive type behaviors, even for alcohol or carbohydrates, this can help with that. But also myo-inositol has a huge impact on your blood sugar health. And so what we know is some of the research associated with this that's been done on this, particularly for women, but also for men as well, is an improvement in what we know to be called small dense lipoprotein particles, so the LDL particles that are very small and dense. Those are associated with insulin resistance, a reduction in remnant lipoprotein and VLDL. So there's been some great research on blood sugar health. I recommend this a lot. My wife and I take, we go through a couple bottles a week. So this is called Myo Relax and Calm. It's on Amazon. We've had a lot of great reviews on this. So I would recommend that over chromium picolinate. Now think about chromium picolinate. I'd like to take nutrients that also have carriers or chelating agents that are healthy in the body. There's no physiologic need for picolinic acid. Okay. I mean, I'm not totally trashing on it, but this is what a mentor of mine has taught me many years ago. Some of these guys know I've been selling supplements to doctors for the past 11 years, and I was taught this long time ago. It's indelibly inked in my head. Picolinic acid, which is the chelating agent for chromium, has no physiologic need in the body. So I don't personally like to take minerals or vitamins that are chelated to something that doesn't also have a positive effect. Like the magnesium in this formula is bound to malic acid, okay, and glycine. Malic acid and glycine have, guess what? Positive physiologic effects. So that's what I'm going to say on that. But when it comes to carb cravings, here's another little tip that's a food-based tip. I like to solve everything with food first. If food doesn't work, then we can add in more supplements, okay? Here's a little tip. Just take a deep breath, okay? And you want to think, why am I craving these carbohydrates, these sweet foods? Is it an emotional response? or is it a physiologic response? Oftentimes, it's an emotional trigger. We had a stressful day. We have a lot of stuff to do, so we're procrastinating, and the easiest thing to like swallow is sweets and carbs, right? If it's really physiologic, we'll play around with that. One very low carb-ish food that's a little sweet are cashews. So the video that I did with Keto Connect, we went to Whole Foods in Breckenridge, and I shared this because when I'm by myself traveling, I oftentimes, will struggle with like being lonely and want to eat something. That's a flaw that I have. I want to, if I'm by myself, I'm going to eat or drink something. So instead of having junk food, what I do is I get a little bit of organic, unroasted cashews. Cashews just have a little bit of sweetness to take that edge off. So that's something that you could do. Again, you're going to get good fats, good nutrients. I think cashews have magnesium and a few other nutrients that are escaping me at this moment. But cashews have just enough sugar, just enough. It's like 3 grams per cup, so it's not a whole lot. And it's balanced with protein and fat. That can help your sugar cravings. So give that a try. Try organic raw cashews. Okay, so thanks for that, Dax. That's an awesome question. Checking the time here. So Jojo says, I'm not a fan either. Inflammation causes havoc on... okay, so M. Robertson says, Mike, I've tried mouth taping, but it produces a lot of anxiety, panic, and not enough air. Any tips? Yeah, totally honest with you, friends. This took me a good 3 weeks to really get acclimated. And I'm coming up on my year 2 of trying mouth taping, thanks to Dr. Mark Brahenna at AskTheDentist.com. Please follow his work. He's got a great book called The 8-Hour Sleep Paradox. He taught all this to me. Without him, I don't know where I would be right now, to be totally real with you. But M. Robinson, it takes some time, just like anything else. Here's a little tip. Here's what I would suggest. Start exercising with the mouth tape. So you go to somnifix.com or on Amazon, buy some mouth tape. I don't have any around here. I would put it on and demonstrate. I got some tape right here that I can show you. Put on some tape, okay, and go out and go for a walk during the day. And what I found is that when you stress the body in a certain way, it causes adaptation quicker, okay? So you don't want to be stressed going to bed and anxious about, is the tape going to fall off? Am I going to, suffocate and all that sort of stuff? But so start exercising just for like 45 minutes with mouth tape on. Do it during the day. Go out and go for a walk. Go to the gym. Do some squats. Do some deadlift. Do whatever. And you'll notice that like later on in the day, you're gonna be nose breathing. Like it's gonna like jam that neurologic pathway much faster than if you're just doing this at rest. So stress the system, exercise, walk, do some cardio, do some exercise when you're mouth taping. That's a great way to kind of speed things along. And then over time, your body's gonna feel comfortable with it. Your brain will remember, oh yeah, when we were exercising, we were wearing that tape, and now that we're just resting, it's gonna be okay. And subconsciously, it's gonna feel better for you. So give that a try, and then on the next live, I'd be very curious to see, how that worked. Okay, so a multi-dimensional universe says, I'm a sleep physiologist, and mouth taping is only as good as the amount of nasal air entry you can achieve. But you can easily use a small silicone nasal dilators. You can buy packs of 3 sizes for small amounts, etc., etc. Yeah, multi-dimensional universe, I would agree with you, but I would also say I've had hundreds, if not thousands of people comment, email, saying that this practice has changed their life. So I think exercising as caution is great. I agree with you. You gotta have good nasal health, because if the oxygen isn't coming through your mouth, it's gotta come from there. Absolutely. But I think, starting the ball rolling, starting the conversation is better than providing a million caveats and stuff like that. So I do agree with you. We got to focus on breathing through our nose, and how can we do that? Minimizing exposure to allergenic foods, to mucus-producing foods. That's why I'm not a big fan of dairy for that reason, and gluten and things like that stimulate the immune system. And again, going back to this whole conversation about leptin and leptin resistance, is as we become more fat adapted, we raise these tolerogenic immune cells called the T regulatory cells that will downregulate inflammation. That could help you breathe through your nose better. So that's what we're kind of talking about, guys. Peter Washington says, what is your take on honey? I absolutely love honey. If it was up to me, I would have honey at every single meal. But when I read the Paleo Diet back in 2005, I remember very clearly what Lauren Cordain said in that book. And honey was a seasonally available food consumed in very moderate amounts during the fall amongst hunter-gatherer people. So I try to keep that in mind. Do I have honey on high carb days? Yes, I had honey on, Monday. I did squats, deadlifts, a lot of volume for my legs, which are great for insulin and leptin sensitivity. We talk a lot about this in the upcoming 8-course, friends. And I had honey and blueberries afterwards. Did I have tablespoons of it? No. It was like 2 or 3 little, small little spoonfuls mixed in with some blueberries and some whey protein. It's an awesome, awesome meal. Did it kick me out of ketosis? Yes, temporarily, but I did a lot of exercise, so I wasn't too worried about it. So honey is good in small amounts. Now, you want to make sure to buy it from a farmer's market, locally, in season, all that sort of stuff. You don't want to go to like Kroger's or Fred Meyer and buy honey, because it's probably coming from China, and I'm sure you've seen that Netflix documentary on that. All right, a couple questions here. Honey mask. Yeah, honey you can do as a mask, I've heard, with avocado. I'm not a skincare specialist, but I've heard about that. Let's see here. So what else we got? Hey there from Argentina. Hey, thanks for being here. So guys, I think that's pretty much it here. Kind of the purpose of doing this. 4 years ago, I wrote this book, Belly Fat Effect. I'm rewriting it now, but it was actually on about this day. It was the 19th. March 19th, 2014. It was before I even had this YouTube channel. I had another YouTube channel, Mike Mutzel, MS, and that book was kind of a failure. We only sold like 4,300 or something copies, and I started this YouTube channel because that book was kind of a failure. I thought that you write a book and then everyone buys it, and then I didn't know what to expect next, but I wrote the book, and I got like 3 or 4 sales, and it trickled in, and so I was like, dude, I got to do a YouTube channel, got to interview people. So I just want to say, I'm so grateful for you watching this now, for you subscribing, for you hitting that like button. I know a lot of you share these videos, and I'm just so grateful for that. Without your support, I don't know where I would be. I don't know what I'd be doing. And so I'm just super excited to be here with you, to share this knowledge, to share this passion. I'm so grateful that you share this with others. And my goal in the next, all these different months, obviously, is more and more content, more and more interviews, but more videos like this. I'm getting a whiteboard so we can talk about all the science and really dive deep. I think there's a need for that. I think a lot of you are ready for it. You want to learn that next step, and I want to be the person to help you with that. It can be hard to find research. I know that. And in writing the book, Belly Fat Effect, I found 1,800 plus articles that I referenced. And so I figured out a different way and way to really organize this stuff, and I want to share that with you. So I just want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, I'm super grateful to be on this journey with you. Hope you feel the same. If you want, other types of content, type in the comment bar what you want, and I'll let you know about that. But we also do have a masterclass coming up. It's a group class. We get on every Wednesday night. We talk shop. We talk about your personal, what you're dealing with now when it comes to metabolic fat adaptation. And I want to let you know about it. So it's a Spring into Keto masterclass. So this is going to be 5 weeks. So we're going to start next Wednesday night at about the same time. We're going to do something that's similar to this, talk about lessons, talk about fitness for women. So it's going to be both taught by me and my wife, Deanna. We have over 22 videos in the membership area, recipes and all that sort of stuff. But we're going to take a deep dive into a lot of new stuff. So we do this every quarter. It's kind of ongoing. And I would love for you to join us. If you want to take your health to the next level, if you want people to be accountable and feel like someone is depending upon you, feel like you can learn from other people and really commit to becoming a better fat burner, to reduce your body's inflammation, to improve the health of your body, to improve the health of your muscle, and specifically your leg muscles. We're going to focus a lot on building up those legs, getting the fat off the legs and getting more muscle on the legs. Not to be a bodybuilder, not to have super big wide hips and all that, but to become more fat adapted. The legs are a key fat burning organ, and we're going to focus on that. My wife has a lot of great fitness stuff that she's going to share. So that's what we got coming up. If you want to join us, that link is right below, where I'll put it here in the YouTube card. I would be honored if you're a part of that program, and we can get to know each other better over the course of the next 5 weeks. So I'll take one more question here. I'm meeting a buddy, Tab, in just a few minutes. We're going to go for a walk, and that is about it. Let's see here. Definitely buy the Re-Whites. Okay, cool. I definitely agree. Mouth taping is multidimensional universe says, I definitely agree. Mouth taping is so beneficial. but dilating the nares, the nostrils, is key. 100%. That's such a great thing about that. Jeffrey says, loved your interview with Max Luger. Wasn't that awesome? Max is so amazing. Okay, fantastic interview, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool, guys. All right, well, I really appreciate you coming on. If I missed your question on the live, I'm so sorry. There's like a lot of them. Repost it in the comment section, and I'll go back after this and check that out and try to answer your question the best I can. So, hope you have an awesome evening. Thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for hitting that like button. Thanks for subscribing. And we will catch you on the next video. And sorry for the rough start with the audio. All right, guys. We'll catch you later. Cheers.